Hello, hello, and welcome to the Weeder Life podcast. I'm your host, Erica Weederlight, and I am the CEO and founder of We the Light. I help humans who feel inadequate, broken, self-conscious, and shamed around their sexuality to reclaim their aliveness, their power, and to have a renewed relationship to pleasure while preparing themselves to feel hella confident to date others and themselves. AKA, I'm guiding people to live their #best lives. I have to give you a fair warning. I do unfortunately swear like a drunken sailor, so if you do have little ones by you, just be sure to pop in some earbuds. Alright friends, let's buckle up and let's rock it to this week's episode. Well, we're back. And I'm sitting here reflecting on our chat today, the choice of radiance. And it can be so empowering, so hot, right? Like, ooh, I have a choice of being radiance. I can choose. And when I was meditating on this episode before we started recording, I was like, that could be a little triggering. Like that could make my shoulders roll back a little bit and a little sticky. Because sometimes we don't want the choice, like I know for me when I'm in my brat, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that from a place of judgment, but when I'm like, I'm like, F you. I don't want to choose radiance. Like, get out of here. That doesn't feel safe. That doesn't feel this. So the topic that we're going to talk about today is both frustrating and very empowering. And honestly, once we move through the frustration, it's very empowering. But sometimes when we're in a place, and I'll speak for myself, where I'm dysregulated, right? Or I'm very burnt out, having someone lovingly coach me or sister me or fill in the blank and be like, Erica, you choose radiance. I'm like, bye. Like, shh, leave me alone. I don't want to make that choice right now, but that's the power. And that's the power of what we're going to talk about today, because I wanted to come on and give you a quick exercise that I work with my clients. So we're going to talk a little bit about the choice of radiance, choosing radiance. We're going to go into it just for a few minutes, and then I'm going to give you a tool. And I'd love for you to practice this tool and see what comes up. I always think it's interesting. I taught this tool to my client a few weeks ago, I believe, ? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And she's been checking in on Voxer and being like, oh my God, like this is what's coming up. How interesting. Or I never noticed this. So don't you fret, Monsieur Marias. We're going to get there in just a moment. We're going to get right there. Let's get into it. I was tempted to tell you something else, but we're going to stay one-track mind today. With an ADHDer, oh Lord, let me tell you, it is challenging. But I'm going to keep it moving forward. With the choice of radiance. I've said this before on the podcast, but one of my coaches used to say, fabulousness is an inside job. And again, wow, what power, but also what a responsibility. And I think if I could take a highlighter and highlight anything or underline anything, it would be that this is a responsibility, that this is a discipline, that this is a choice. Earlier today, before I recorded this pod, I went to yoga. It was great. Oh my God, I could tell you 5,000 stories about this. Everyone was 85 and everyone was talking the whole time. I'm like, I've never been into a yoga class where everyone's chit-chatting. What's happening? We want the namaste. We want the zen. But I had a blast. It was great. But I went to yoga. I had to call my friend Kate that I do embodiment with. So I said, Kate, and we were talking about embodiment. And I'm like, I just had the craziest yoga class and we were chit-chatting and laughing. And her and I teach embodiment classes that are pay what you can. So I encourage that to come on and join us, because we could talk about that another time, but the beauty of embodiment, right? Whew, I can go on a tangent about that. Even last night for me, I was feeling so crunchy and I did an embodiment class, embodiment class. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize how deeply I needed that. And for me, that was connected to my radiance. I couldn't really unlock my radiance because I was so tight and so contracted in my body from stress. And so that's why Kate and I teach these classes, because they just unlock so much, right? They can unlock grief and, help us move through pain and trauma, but also it helps us reignite and make our radiance feel safe. So if you do want to check those out, be sure to send me a line on my website or send me an email, and I'll give you the embodiment with Kate and I. And Kate and I were talking today, and she reminded me, that this work, especially the work of radiance, the work of pleasure, is a discipline, right? So we were talking about yoga, we're chit-chatting, we were gossiping, we were cackling, and then we were talking about, I was sharing my burnout, and I shared the story that I just shared with you, right? That like, whoa, yesterday I didn't realize how burnt out I was. I didn't realize, and I'm pretty good at being in my body, right? Like I teach this work, but I didn't realize how deeply, deep it ran, and how I was in such a deep contraction. And, she was like, I know you know this, but pleasure is a discipline. You know this. Pleasure is a discipline. She's like, and I know right now, if you're in a burnout cycle, the last thing you're going to want to do is reach for pleasure. I'm like, I know. And getting really clean and clear with myself, like, and I think this is important. What am I saying is pleasurable? But it's not real pleasure, right? Like there's a value to it, but sometimes we're cute with our brain, and I see in the pleasure community, it's like, oh, I'm going to scroll on TikTok for 5 hours, or I'm going to watch Netflix, which, God bless, let me tell you, I'm 20 years late to the game, but I'm binging Vampire Diaries, and I feel so alive up until a point. And I have to track myself. It's like, hey, Erica, are you really using this as pleasure? Or are we using this to dissociate? And no shade, no shame. What is it? I laughed. No tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. Thank you, Drag Race. It took me 5 minutes to think of that. But no shade, no shade, oh no. No tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. But no pink lemonade to me. But I sometimes can use quote unquote pleasure to avoid, right? And to distract myself. And I have to be very mindful of like, what is real pleasure? What is real nourishment here? Again, that's not to ban the TikTok, L to the no. I live for that. It's not to ban the Netflix, but it's what is real pleasure. And Kate and I were talking about that today. Like my pleasure profile is shifting, as I'm growing and going through different things. We all are, but especially in this new season where I might have thought, oh, working while watching Vampire Diaries is so fulfilling. That might not be the vibe anymore. Does that make sense? So it's like we have to, and I always say this on this pod, but like pleasure is a relationship. And often I know I tried to make it one-dimensional and put it on put it in a box and put it on a shelf and be like, hee, pleasure, put a bow on it and bibbidi-boppidi-boo. And it's like, LOL, honey bunny. Like, it's not going to work like that. That's not how this works. So pleasure is that consistent relationship, and it talks to you. What do I need? What is this season about? And so for me, my burnout in this current season still wants Netflix. Actually, really, I'm watching it on Peacock, but it still wants the shows. It still wants the TikTok, but it also needs something else. It also needs a different flavor. And why I bring that up is choosing radiance isn't, well, it can be. It is a light switch, but we got to turn the light on. Does that make sense? So choosing radiance is also choosing pleasure. It's also choosing fabulosity. We have to actively choose that. And when we're going through things, or not even sometimes going through things, but when we're in the thick of it, it's hard to turn on the damn light. Or I don't want to turn on the damn fucking light. You know what I mean? Pardon my French. But like sometimes we're like, I don't want to turn on the light. And that's cool. Our anger is justified, but like this is an active choice. And part of my work with folks, with myself, is, okay, where am I right now? Why am I not choosing this? How can I choose this, right? Like clearing up the mud. If there's some cobwebs, if there's some dusty crusties, if there's some hairballs to be had, no shade, no pink lemonade, there it is. But do we want to clear it, right? Do we want to clear it so I feel cleaner, so I feel clean and clear and under control? But I also want to make a clear path to turning on the light to my fabulosity, on the light to my radiance, on the light to my pleasure. Because sometimes we just assume, wow. And often I see people making themselves wrong. Like, wow, I used to be so radiant. I used to live, laugh, love, kickball changing down the street. Where did that person go? And a lot of things happen, right? Sometimes it's a different season. Sometimes life unfolds and it's an active choice. And the power of that is sometimes we don't have to choose that. The example is if we don't feel safe in a situation that is unsafe, right? Like if you're in a dark alley at night, you don't need to choose that. That's not a choice you have to make. But we have to watch if we're actively not choosing for a very long time. And that, again, but doesn't mean anything, but it's something to investigate. I talked about it on a podcast. I don't know if it was this one. We do a lot of guest podcasts over here. She's a gabber. But it was either here or somewhere else. But I was saying, I really learned the lesson, right? Like we hear this a lot, but like I recently really learned the lesson that me not making a choice was making a choice. And that honestly was for so many different topics and themes for me. But let's take it pleasure, radiance, like me being like, oh yeah, like whatever. I was making a choice and that's okay. That's not bad or wrong, but let's just have some consciousness around it. Like I was making a choice. Me not making a choice was making a choice. And I had to get kind of sober with myself on that and be like, hey, you sure are making a choice, my love. And that's okay. What would you like to choose? I think it's empowering a lot in the spiritual community. And I think it goes back to the metaphysical text, A Course in Miracles, where I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to use the version I do. I always filter it through the Erica lens, which God bless. But there's something in A Course in Miracles. What's so funny is it's right behind me on my bookshelf. And I think I actually have a bookmark in that page. Am I going to get it? No, because I'm going to tell you the Erica version. But the passage is something to the effect of, I choose to see this differently. Actually, that might just be right. I choose to see this differently. I choose to see this differently. Or we're making an active choice. So I choose to see this differently, or I'm choosing something else. And in the spiritual community a lot, it's like choice, 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 choice. And again, I want to caveat that, nuance that with sometimes we don't, that's not always, we don't want to gaslight ourselves. We don't want to shame ourselves. We don't want to make ourselves wrong with that. I always say to my clients, let's not use the tools to weaponize ourselves, right? Like that's when we know we go into dangerous territory. But from an empowerment spot, how can I choose? How do I choose radiance, right? And let's start with the bare bones, right? Like let's start with the intention of, I want to choose radiance. I want to choose pleasure. If it was a light, like we talked about, and I'm turning on the light, what comes up? Can I easily flicker the light on and be like, all right, baby, let's go. Let's live, love, love, la ba ba. Can we shake it, shake it, shake it? Or is it like, ooh, I'm on the other side of the room. I don't want to put the light on. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's worth starting at, okay, my intention is today, I'm going to choose radiance. Today, I'm going to choose fabulosity. Today, I'm going to choose pleasure. Okay, go and reach for that light. Go and reach for that light. Maybe it's you put it on, you put that light on. I was going to give lamp examples and then it got too hard. I was like, I'm not going to explain this. But visualize with me. However lamps you like to lamp, you're flickering it on. Is there resistance? Does it feel safe? And that's the work that we do together to comb through, ooh, I don't want to turn on the light. That scares me. That feels unsafe. Or I'm scared to turn on the light because every time I turn on the light, bad things happen. The rug gets pulled underneath me. Or I want to put on the light, baby. I'm running towards that light. I'm running towards that gorgeous lamp. But ooh, I'm noticing I can only keep the light on for a certain amount of time, which is okay. But I want to know how to hold this radiance, this pleasure in my body for longer. That's where I struggle, right? Like, so let's start with the intention, pleasure, radiance. We go to turn on the light. What happens? Is it easy? Is it a struggle? Is it, I could do it, but I can't sustain it? I really actually want you to take inventory with me. And guess what? Every day is different. We are cyclical beings. Not every day. We're not robots, where it's like today at 12:13 p.m. Like, it's not like it always looks the same. Every day is going to be different. And that's our job, being in a relationship with radiance and pleasure. Being curious, not making ourselves wrong, or being curious of, oh, I don't want to turn on the light today. Or, wow, I ran towards that light and baby, I'm going to hold on to that. Great. But it is our responsibility, and it's annoying, but it is our radical responsibility to be in relationship with it. It doesn't just flicker on and live, laugh, loves for us, right? It's a relationship. And that's the beauty of it, that it can be a consensual relationship where sometimes, get me off this ride. I don't want to feel this right now. Cool. Shut it off. Or I want more, or I'm curious. I'm curious what's coming up here. So first and foremost, let's take some inventory here. What's going on with you today? It's funny. You might listen to this podcast in 7 days, 3 months. It might be different. But today, let's investigate, and maybe let's just get a vibe of your pattern. Do you normally run towards the light? Does it feel safe to run towards the light? But the light, turning on the light, I mean the radiance, the fabulosity, the pleasure, like turning that up. And if you're like, Erica, what the frig are you meaning? Here's what I'm talking about. Turn on, creating radiance in your life, walking into a room unapologetically, feeling sexy, dare I say, in your body, feeling badass, having good thoughts about yourself. So instead of being like, I suck, I'm a piece of shit, like, no, bitch, like, I'm hot, I'm worthy, I can rock this. Like, that's being in the radiance, that's being in the pleasure, being like, So feeling that juice in your body, feeling the juice in your brain, feeling, for me, when I know I'm in it, like, I feel, this is so corny, but like, I feel magical, like, I feel like possibilities. I don't feel a victim of my own life. And sometimes life does victimize us, right? So nuance there, but like, I don't feel like a victim of my own life. I don't feel like, well, another day and I'm trudging by, I feel more like hell to the yeah. Like, this is my day. Like, I'm moment to moment, baby. We're creating magic. Like, I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling excited by possibilities. I'm alive. And that's the big word here, is I feel alive. I feel excited to be alive. And alive means like I'm connected to my 5 senses. Like, I really feel like I'm jamming and I'm hearing the music and I'm tasting the taste and I'm seeing beautiful imagery, or I'm seeing, like, I feel like I'm in conversation with the world, right? Like, I'm in conversation. It's not just like little old me dragging my feet. And there's nothing wrong with little old me dragging my feet, but sometimes I don't want to choose that all the time. It just doesn't feel good. And sometimes it's appropriate, right? When I'm grieving or when that's the vibe, that's okay. That's the vibe. But more often than not, I do want to feel living la vida loca. I butchered that so bad. But you know what I mean? Like, I want to feel alive. And I think something so interesting is when you have a taste of it, it's like, oh, more please. More please. How do I get back to that? Because it's so scrumdiddlyumptious. So let's take inventory. Where you're at. You could pause, you could think about it. I just want you to think, like, where am I in this conversation? Where am I? And there's no shade, there's no shame. Often we get stuck. Often we need people to support us and to rally behind us. Be like, you got this, you got this. I'm holding you, I'm supporting you, I'm cheering you on. And honestly, that's, I started before earlier when I had my brain ADHD fart and I was like, should I now? Nah, feels like an appropriate time. That's a huge part of my work with clients. So I say this because I don't want you to feel shame if you're like, I feel so stuck, or I don't know, ma'am, I feel numb, or I'm putting on the light, but what does that mean? Like, any confusion, or even if it feels crystal clear, like, I'm good. That's my work, right? That is part of my work, to hold clients. Like, if there is some crunchy dunchies, oh no, we merged two Ericaisms. Crunchy dust. No, dust. That's what I was missing. Crunchy and dusty. Crunchy dunchies. Oh, you feel crunchy dunchy. But if you feel like that's, like that's like, Yeah, I'm giving like a stank face. I'm moving my hips. Like that is deep. That is that's a crunchy dunchy. So if you're feeling a crunchy dunchy, let's talk. But even if you're feeling oh god, I'm cracking myself up. Even if I'm feeling crystal clean about it, also it's appropriate to have someone to hold us, right? Like I've been in seasons, even today when I talked, when I told you about the story with Kate and she was like, E, you know how to do this. This is pleasure discipline. There might be seasons where I'm crunchy dunchy. I love this. Should we make merch? Crunchy dunchy merch? Right, there might be seasons where I feel so stuck that I need support, that I need holding, that I need guidance. But I might be living out loud and being like, like, oh yeah, like I feel alive. And I still might need support. Why? To hold on to that feeling, to integrate that, right? Like, so at every season with our pleasure journey, at every season with our radiance journey, it's worthy to be held, right? It's worthy to be held in the shit of it, the shadow of it, and the frig I don't want to. Great. And there's also value in the I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm taking off the training wheels. I'm going full blast. I'm full blast. Hold me in my full blast. And also help me to sometimes downregulate, to like integrate some of this stuff and then bring me back up. Like, right? Like there's a purpose for this. And so I wanted to say this to let you know it's normal if any feelings come up. That's why we have support. That's why we have people in our corner cheering us on, holding us, to have that pleasure more regularly, to have that radiance. Like that's what I'm here for. And I do want to transition to a baby story and then to the tool, because that's why we're here. But before we do, below in the show notes, and I'll tell you verbally as well, or audibly, verbally, audibly, whatever, all of the above. But I'll tell you, I'd love to invite you into my Mojo Makeover Assessment. And this is for folks that are not clients or haven't been clients in the past. So people that, maybe I did a workshop with them or you're listening to the pod. This Mojo Makeover Assessment, I'll be brief with this, but this is important. The Mojo Makeover Assessment is a 60-minute call. It's really free. Like, it's free. And I hate when people are like, it's free, but there's like energetic strings attached. This is no strings attached. This is 60 minutes of time for you. I bring exercises. If you're like, hey, something on that call that you said or that podcast, like, can we talk about it? I get stuck here in the pleasure circle, or I get stuck here in the pleasure cycle or the radiance cycle. Great, let's talk about it, right? Like you have 60 minutes of me, no strings attached. Transparently, if you're like, wait, I really like you, of course we could talk about working together, right? If you're like, Erica, I like you, often people are like, I got so much out of this. I'm good. I'm like, great, bye. Like, let's stay in touch. Let's be friends. But this 60 minutes is for you. It's for your it's 60 minutes of radiance, of pleasure, of how we can stay in that energy. If we choose to continue one-to-one, hot. If we don't, no problem. If you're like, can you point me in a different direction? Fuck yeah. Use this resource. It's free. You know what I mean? So if something in this conversation or any of the conversations that I bring here or social media or blog, is capturing you, or I want more, I don't know what it is, but like there's something, can we talk about it? Yes, let's do the damn thing. So reach out to me. It should be in the description below. But if you're like, I don't know, email me, info@wethelight.org, or honestly, you could book right on my website, which is www.wethelight.org. Go there, type, wethelight.org, type it in, get that call. And I think it's on the calendar as of now. I think it's the first one. It says Mojo Makeover Assessment, like new clients only, or, something of that wording, but I'm here if you need me. Okay. So there's this, I've talked about it here before, but I just think it's so powerful. And why I want to talk about it was, the client that I shared, that we're working through this tool, I also shared this story with her. I have to find the exact, but it was an article or something, I believe. But the Cliff Notes is there, and I'm sure you've heard about this before. It's like the Marilyn Monroe experiment. Again, this is going through the Erica filter. Cliff Notes is Marilyn Monroe Oh my God, you've seen it too. I'm sure you've seen it. Oh my gosh, I have to find it for you, the logistics. But Cliff Notes is, I'm paraphrasing, but for the intention of getting to the goodies of this tool. So Marilyn Monroe would, whoever she was with, whether she would tell people this or she told the interviewer or blah, 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 blah. She's like, I want you to watch this. And she'd go through the streets of New York City. I think she was on the subway, live, laugh, loving. And she was Marilyn Monroe, honey. Like, let the white dress fly up. Like, happy birthday, Mr. President. Like, she was doing her thing. And as you can imagine, people were losing their damn minds. Like, oh yeah. Like, people were going crazy. And then she said, watch this. She didn't take off a piece of clothes. She didn't add a piece of clothes. She didn't change her makeup. She didn't change her hair. She didn't take on jewelry or take off jewelry. Everything was the same. She energetically made a change. So I can imagine, I don't think they wrote about this, but I can imagine maybe she contracted in her body. Maybe she, whatever. And that's what we come to learn in our work together. But she changed the energetics. And she walked through New York City, walked through the subway, and no one noticed her. And that's so cool. That's so powerful. And then she said, want to watch again? And within seconds, changed. Oh my God, oh my God. Maybe she was on the same, subway, train or whatever. Oh my God, oh my God. And I'll say, because I wasn't there, but I will speak for my personal, so that's how Erica extracted the story. But I will say from my personal experience, I know exactly what she's talking about. And I feel very grateful that I've played with those dynamics before, right? Where I'm like, yeah, look at me. Maybe people aren't like, Erica Wiederline, host of Welcome to the Weider Life. Like, they might not be doing that, but like, let me tell you, I might be noticed. I might be flirted with. The door might be open. We might be, like, we're vibing. And then if I'm like, I've had enough, I know how to shut it down and kind of become invisible. Like, I don't want energy my way. I don't want attention. I want to keep it moving. I want to walk through, Aldi in peace. But I have played with the dynamics of on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. And it's pretty spectacular. And why I share that is it gives some empowerment. It gives us some power back, some safety back. For me, it makes it feel a little bit more safe or a little bit more I'm in control, which a little bit more I'm in control of this. It's not like, oh no, radiance took over my body, or oh, I'm just so into my aliveness. Like sometimes maybe that might happen, but like it lets me be in authority of I'm actively choosing now to be hot to go or no. We're just walking through Aldi and we want it to be chill. Does that make sense? So I just want to point to the importance and the magic, but we could turn it on and off. That we have the control of now I'm in, now I'm out, now I'm in, now I'm out. And the discipline and the responsibility, this is like the not so fun part, of doing that in a way of integrity, right? So like in a way of, I'm doing this from a place of integrity. I'm not being, sneaky and manipulative. Like I'm doing this from a place of, I'm turning on my light. I'd like to turn it off now. Does that make sense? So I just think that's really fucking hot and really empowering, especially for so many of us when the power has been ripped away from us. And sometimes there could feel like some hopelessness of, oh, I don't have that. Yeah, baby, you do. We just got to turn it on. And sometimes just turning it on is us creating safety, us creating, safety and enough pleasure and da-da-da and da-da-da and da-da-da. But I share that Marilyn Monroe story. I share my story with you because I didn't feel as victimized. I didn't feel as less than. I was like, damn, I am powerful. Damn, I am a witch. You know what I mean? Like, shit, like I am fucking powerful. And I thought so. I remember the first few times when I go on, off. Like I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like I thought I was, but I am. And it's really cool. it's really cool to, for me, this is a way of living magically. I love magic. And for me, magic is, Salem spells, but magic, I'm actually looking right here, actually all on my desk, honestly, right now, is my Ron Disney 5K little trophy I have here, and my little Disney patches and pins. Oh my God, I have so much Disney shit on this desk, actually, now that I think about it, like Disney next to Buddha. Oh, you gotta love me. Next to my essential oils, my tiara. But I love magic in so many different forms, right? Like, I've always been attracted to magic. I've always chased magic. Like I said, whether it's let's go to Salem and do a spell, or let's go to Disney World, like that magical energy. And this tool gives us the ability to be in that magic, to stay in that magic, to be hopeful. Sorry, I just punched my microphone. To be hopeful, to feel radiant. And what's so cool about it, actually, this is a sidebar, but I think I've talked about this in a newsletter once, I definitely did, and I probably should share this on the podcast deeper, because I'll give the side story. P.S. If you like to read some blogs, be sure to be on my my blogs, because sometimes I do quick emails, but long stories, and I did a really good long story on the Disney thing, but it was just really interesting. But for me, what's so cool is now I get to choose magical things outside of myself, and it's like an extracurricular, right? Like, where in the past, if I was depleted, or if I felt whatever, I would reach for, let's go with Disney. I love Disney. I love Universal. I love magic. I would reach for that in hopes of fill me up, or I'd reach for, let me do the Salem spell, where now I get to approach these things of like, I feel magical. I feel freaking alive. Then I get to go to Disney World on top of it. Hell yeah. Like, give me the Dole Whip. Right? Or like, I feel magical. I feel radiant. Let's go to Salem, baby. Like, it's not coming from a place of, I'm depleted. I'm crunchy. So I need to take in hopes of filling up and feeling magical. I feel magical. I know this sounds like, what the hell? But I feel magical when I choose to feel magical, but I feel magical. I feel alive. And so I'm not using those extra, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not using those extra things outside of myself to feel full. Does that make sense? It's like, I feel full so I can enjoy things like Disney in such a different way. Like, oh, wow, like it feels so magical, but it's not from a place of, I need to take. And there's nothing wrong with I need to take, but do you see the difference? Do you feel the difference of, I'm so depleted, I need to go to Disney World in hopes of this? Or fill in your blank. Someone might, I need to eat, all this McDonald's. I've been there. I need to shop. I need to do this. Like, from I need. And coming from a place of, I'm full. I feel alive. I feel at peace. I feel in alignment. I feel radiant. Oh, yes, we're going to enjoy a French fry. Yeah. Like, it's just a different vibe. And my intention and the point of my work is I still want you to go to Disney if you want to go to Disney. If you want to go to Universal, hell yeah. If you want to eat the French fries, hell yeah. If you want to move your body in yoga, hell yeah. Like, I am still an advocate for you living your best life outside of yourself. But also part of our work together is having you be fulfilled. You feeling alive, you feeling radiant. So then when you interact with these things outside of ourselves, hell to the yeah. Hell to the yeah. I think you get what I'm saying, right? Sometimes I go on a tangent, but I think you're following me. It feels like a cherry on top versus us needing to take from depletion. It's a fabulous feeling. So let me transition really quickly into the tool. So the tool is ABC. ABC, and really it's AB, but if you want to remember this, ABC, 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 and let's start honestly, the first thing we did today was the tool of turning on the light. So turning on the light, check in with yourself regularly. Do I want to turn on the light today? I do. Turn on the light. Or, ooh, I have resistance. What is this about? I'm angry. Let's talk about that, right? So it's like tool 1 today was turning on, choosing radiance, choosing pleasure. And is it easy to flip on that light? If so, great. If it's not, great. Let's investigate that. Let's be curious about that. That's where that is such a great spot to be because we have information to work through, right? Like, ooh, we have some goods, we have some juice to work through. So that's tool 1. Let's use it. I will use it in tantrum. We'll use it together. We'll be putting on all the lights, all the lamps, okay? And the second one is ABC, 1, 2, 3. ABC, 1, 2, 3. ABC, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear my click-clacking in the back? ABC, 1, 2, 3. ABC. ABC 1 through 3. So ABC 1, 2, 3 is A, track, B, choose, C, glow up, question mark? So I'll repeat it again. You can write this down, or if you need it, I'm happy to send it your way. But I want you to write this down. A, track, B, choose, C, glow up, question mark? A, track, B, choose, C, glow up, question mark. 1, 1, 2, 3, ABC. Let's just do ABC. ABC, ABC, ABC. Track, choose, glow up. Track, choose, glow up. Track, choose, glow up. I feel like I'm in acting class. I'm like red leather, yellow leather. Unique, unique New York. You know New York, you need New York. You know you need unique New York. Hey, I'm not warmed up today. ABC, track, choose, glow up. So in this track, right? So A is track. Track means where am I right now, right? Like on the pleasure scale, on the radiance scale, where am I? So if I was to track yesterday, how I told you, like I was contracted, if I really went into it, I might have been like, oh, she's crunchy. She's pretty crusty. She's in contraction. Maybe she's born with it. Like I would have noticed. I was telling my client, I gave an example. I was at the airport, and this is a sidebar, which we should talk about, but I was at the airport and I was like doing this weird thing with my body that I didn't really realize. Like I was by these men and I just noticed the conditioning that I tried to make myself smaller and like hunched and contorted myself. And I'm like, what the fuck? So like that's a sidebar story that we should talk about of like tracking our bodies in the wild, right? Like if we try to, if we're attracted, if we're, whatever. And I wasn't even attracted to these men. I just noticed like the conditioning of like, oh, they seem more powerful. They're going to first class. They're men. I should make myself small. Isn't that interesting? I didn't even have those conscious thoughts. But then I was like breathing and I took a deep breath. I'm like, what am I doing with my body? Like what's happening here? What am I doing? And I was like, what the fuck is this about? And then I was like, oh, I'm sensing that there's these two, what I perceive, meanwhile, I don't know, what I perceive as powerful men, so I'm making myself physically small. No, Nanette. That's a whole episode, because let me tell you, that's very fascinating. Like, in regards to, like, embodiment and how we show up in the world and taking up space and, casually breaking the patriarchy, the toxic patriarchy, of course. But, casually changing that, let's chat about that. But I do want to make that another episode. Next time we're having a great guest come on, but maybe after that for our next episode, next solo episode, I think we should talk about that. I'm going to write a note about that because I think that's so powerful. So it could be something as deep, right? So A track, it could be something as deep as that of like, I'm at the airport line and I'm doing some weird things. Or it could be track of, like we talked about earlier, I want to go put on the light. I'm resistant. So we're just going to track, where am I? Right? We have so many things in our life that takes us out of our body and like kind of into the unknown, but like literally, she's a Disney girly. But does that make sense? Like there's so many things that take us out of our body, like me singing Into the Unknown to you. There's so many things. So first and foremost, A, track. I want you to take a nice deep breath, maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth. How am I? Where am I? What's my body doing? What's going on? Am I turned on? Am I radiant? Am I feeling crunchy? We just want to take a pulse, all right? So that's A track. We're tracking what's going on. If I was to turn on a light switch, what's going on in my internal world? So tracking is just getting familiar with what's going on in that beautiful body of yours. B, choose. Choose. This is the whole freaking episode, right? Choice, choice, choice. I choose to see this differently. I'm making a different choice. I'm choosing something else. Choose. So that line that I was in, right, at the airport, I tracked. I'm doing some weird stuff. And I chose. And for me, the choice wasn't Radiance. I didn't want to be like, and now I'm hot. Like that wasn't the vibe. I just wasn't into it. I was coming from deep stuff, like that wasn't the vibe. However, the choice for me was to untangle what my body was doing, like this weird contortion, and just roll my shoulders back and take a deep breath. Right? Of like, why am I being a freak? Like, why am I giving my energetic power away to these strangers? Like, that was my choice of like, my choice was giving myself the affirmation of I'm worthy and deserving of being here. I'm allowed to take up space. It's safe for me to take up space. That was my choice. For the example yesterday, right? Like where I was crunchy, the choice was, and thank God I made this choice earlier, was I had an embodiment class. I'm like, thank God. And I could have canceled. But I had to track myself and I was like, ooh, part of me really wants to cancel this class, right? And the other option was I'm going to choose to do this class in hopes that it helps unwind me. Does that make sense? So we're going to track what's going on. Then we're going to choose, right? So let's talk about the light switch example. I'm noticing this is what's going on. That's the tracking, noticing and tracking. I'm going to choose. Am I going to choose to turn on the light for a little bit? Am I going to choose to not engage? Does that make sense? So we want to choose. This one's really important because it gives us power. We don't feel like, little old me, life's passed me by. Like, no, what is my choice? Do I choose to sit, to turn on the light, or do I choose this? Like, it is our choice. It is our choice in that moment when we work through this framework. So A, track/notice. B, choose. What am I choosing here? So that airport example I think is really helpful. No, Erica, we're not playing into this. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to roll my shoulder backs and fuck yeah, bitch, you're allowed to be here. You're allowed to take up space. You're worthy and deserving. That was the choice that I wanted to make, right? Maybe if I'm noticing I'm crusty dusty, okay, the choice that I'm going to make is I'm going to give myself 5 minutes of self-care, or I'm going to choose ba. Does that make sense? And if you ever have questions about anything, and I'm big into this, if there's any questions or anything, hey, can we talk about this? That is what I'm here for, right? Like, for me, so many of these tools can be abstract and confusing that, like, I want you to feel like you have a live person, like the podcast. I think podcasts can be so helpful, and resources like blogs and things are so helpful. But sometimes it's like, hey, help. How does this apply to me? Or how, this is kind of abstract. That's what I'm here for. So if you have any questions, please reach out. That's, me, my team, we're here to support you. I'm really here to, make sure that you feel held in this, because I want you to apply this. I don't want it to be, my intention is never to be like, it's a podcast episode. I feel a little inspired and here we go. Like, yes, I want you to feel inspired, but I want us to be able to start to integrate some of this. So if you have any questions, if you need anything, let's talk. That's what I'm here for. So A, track. B, choose, right? Choose. And C is glow up, ? The glow up is a choice. The energetic glow up, the energetic makeover, the energetic radiance, that's, you get to choose, right? So in that airplane example, I told you I didn't really want to like titty tassel my way down the aisle. Like, that wasn't the choice. I just, like I said, I came from some heavy stuff. I didn't want to choose like doing a backflip down the runway, like down the landing strip of the airline. That wasn't the vibe. But what was the vibe was B, choose. I choose something differently. Like I said, I uncoiled my body. I gave myself that affirmation. I took in a deep breath. Honestly, that kind of is the glow up. But I didn't want to go so glow up that I'm like, shaking the titty tassels. Like, that wasn't the glow up vibe. My glow up vibe was I'm feeling my feet in the floor. I'm walking with confidence. So glow up is your interpretation, but also, how do you want to glow up? Do you want to glow up? Is that the vibe, right? Yesterday, let's take the dance class example. I'm giving examples to, hopefully you could see yourself in this. Like, I made the choice, I did the class, and then honestly through the class, through the choice, I had the glow up, right? Like I felt like, ow, like after the embodiment, the sensual embodiment class, I was like, ow, like I felt in the glow up. It naturally was a repercussion of making the choice. So track, choose, glow up, question mark. And glow up, again, just means what we talked about before. Fabulosity is an inside job. Choosing radiance. And what is appropriate in that moment for you? What's the vibe for you? Are you like, ooh, I want to feel how hot and sexy I am? You might be like, ew, no. Like, I just want to feel confident. I want to walk with my shoulders back. Like, glow up question mark is question mark because it's open for interpretation for what lands for you, right? It's like someone's internal glow up, each person's internal glow up at that moment looks so different, right? Everyone's internal glow up looks so freaking different. So it's like glow up, your interpretation. What do you want to do today? What do you want to do in this circumstance? But it's also like maybe you don't want to be feeling like glittery. You know, maybe you're like, I don't want to feel like totally crazy glittery right now. Like, I just want to feel neutral. Neutral would feel really safe. Neutral would feel really good. Maybe not total, what's that Taylor Swift song? Shimmer. I had to think of, I was like, shimmer. Is it shimmer or glitter? Oh no. I also, even if I love an artist, I never know lyrics, so I'm sorry, but I think it was Shimmer. I have to look it up now. But you know what I mean? Like, that's our choice. So glow up question mark is, what's your interpretation? And is that the choice that you want to make right now? Or is it like, no, I want neutral, or no, you know? But it allows us, why I think this tool is so powerful is it allows us to be actively engaged instead of life is just passing me by, or why don't I have a say in my radiance? Why don't I have a say in my turn on? Why don't I have a say in my fabulosity? It gives us a little bit more power. And these tools, right? The light switch and what we just talked about, the ABC, track, choose, glow up, are kind of interchangeable. So you could play with them. Or like some days you might be like, let me try. And I'm a big person that I set timers all the time. So I might set a timer and it's like light switch. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to actively, energetically, in my body, turn on the light switch. What happens? You know? And maybe sometimes it's like, ooh, I need more. And maybe it's, let's do ABC instead. ABC, okay, we're tracking. How am I? Great. Choose. Am I going to choose to, you know, have more radiance? Am I going to choose more pleasure? Glow up, question mark, is, okay, am I complete? Or, you know what? Ooh, I'm going to live, laugh, love. I'm going to really relish in this pleasure and this radiance, right? So it's like different flavors, also up for interpretation. The power of these tools are, they can be, like I said before, they can be a little abstract because it's meant to empower us, right? So there's a framework, there's a structure. So we could say ABC, turn on the light switch, like we have the framework, we have the things, but whatever works best for you is the thing. You know what I mean? So like, who cares if you do A, B, C, D, E? Who cares if you say, it's not a light switch for me, it's a firework, or I don't care. Like, right? Like, this is a general framework. The intention under all of these tools, under all of this work, is for you to feel good, for you to feel empowered, for you to feel in alignment. So if you're like, Erica, I hate track, choose, glow up, I'm creating this. Hot. I support it. You know, like, take this. Leave the rest as we do, but take this and use it as your interpretation. Interpret it in a way that would best support you, that would best support your thriving, your radiance, your fun, your turn on. Use this structure, but apply it to your life. Apply it to what would make you feel most fabulous, because that's what we're here to do. So I hope this was helpful. If there's any questions, I have thoughts, help me through this. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to support you to do. Remember, it can be an overwhelming yet an empowering piece of knowledge that choosing radiance can sometimes and often be in our control, right? And that's a privilege, and that's a responsibility, and honestly, it's a discipline. but it's a discipline worth studying. I truly believe, even though sometimes it's a fucking pain in the ass. Let me tell you, having a relationship, being a disciple of pleasure, being a disciple of our radiance, being a disciple of self-love and knowing ourselves and holding ourselves is a worthwhile cause. I want to end on this because this might be coming up. I often get asked when I do podcasts or speaking, often all the time, really, the question is, so many people might be resistant to this work because isn't it selfish? And I always say this work is the most selfless thing you could do. And I genuinely believe that because when we are resourced, when our cup runneth over, we're not grabbing, we're not taking, we can really serve our family, our friends, our community. So if I am full, I can really serve. I can really show up. I can make shit happen. If I'm depleted, and sometimes it happens, I'm not the best use of me. You know what I mean? So like there is real evidence that when we are filled up, we can give back generously and we can really support the people around us. And not only that, I was thinking about this yesterday. I came in to a few interactions and it's funny. I ran into someone that I know and love dearly and they self-admit that, and I'm like, come on, let's talk. But they self-admit that they have confidence issues and that they don't like themselves. And that loving that person is so hard. Like loving that person, not is so hard, it's so easy, but loving someone and knowing they're going through that, it's like, fuck, come on. You're fucking amazing. You're amazing. But what's interesting is they were talking and they were saying, and we kind of had a little transparent conversation that they owned up to, that them not liking themselves, they started to see it's a disservice. They thought, oh, if I'm being self-deprecating and I'm playing small, like I'm actually helping. And I'm like, no. And they've come to the place, thank God, where they slowly started to recognize I'm actually hurting people when I'm in my self-loathing. I'm like, yeah. And they admitted, like, I'm kind of fresh to people. And I would tell them too, like, I could be a little fresh to people. I could make some mean comments. And it's like the quintessential hurt people, right? Like hurt people. And so I think there's this like story that we hold on in society that it's selfish, And what I've seen often is people that really are cruel to themselves. It doesn't just, usually, sometimes it does, and it's not fair to just contain it, but like often it's not contained as well as I think it is, right? Like I was in that spot and I was like, oh, it's contained to me. No, no. Some of my behavior, some of the stuff I was doing was not contained to me. And I didn't realize how it was seeping into interactions and how I walk through the world. So we might be thinking to ourselves, in this isolated bubble of, oh, my self-hate is just contained to me. It can't be. We're connected. It spills out. It spills out even if we're joking or even if it's accidental. It spills out. So not only do I believe like, oh, you were so well-resourced and we could do this work and we could help people, but I think something that's not talked about often is when we're really cruel to ourselves, it spills out in how we interact with others. And we really might have no intention of it, but it comes out, right? Even if it's a joke or a jab or this or that. And why I say that is as a hope that we recognize this work is so important. Because even if it was just contained to us, that's not fair to you. You know what I mean? Like that's not fair to the individual. But often it's not just contained. It contaminates, honestly. It contaminates from us and how we interact in the world. And I just want to make, make my, stance why this work is so important. Because if you might listen to this episode and say, oh, this is great. This is great. Confidence, radiance, fabulous. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is this crazy? Oh, let me tell you. Not only is it worth it, it'll change your life, it will change the life of your family members, it will change dynamics, it will be healing. we cause less harm, we cause less damage. I've seen it time and time again, and I've seen it within myself. And so I wanted to kind of end with that this is not just, oh, I'm going to love myself, tee-hee-hee, self-love, face masks. This is quite literally, I'm going to take a stand. This is healing, like, talk about planet healing, right? Like, this is generational healing, planet healing, like, this is where it begins. This is where it begins. And we can't love the planet, we can't be the best we can be if we're being cruel to ourselves. It just can't happen. And so I should have started the episode with this, but choosing radiance, choosing fabulosity, making and being a disciple for pleasure. I could breathe. Like my shoulders just dropped. It's a worthy cause. It's worthy. So if you struggle to do it for yourself, do it for the people that you love. And then eventually, hopefully, we start to do it for ourselves. But we're worthy of choosing fabulosity. We're worthy of having radiance. We're worthy of feeling alive and fabulous. We're worthy of those things. And it's a real way to give a gift back to this planet, not just for ourselves, but to really actively live our lives and give back to the planet and to the people on the planet by being in our radiance and showing others that it's safe. And I hope I did that for you today. Again, I'm here. If you have any questions, any thoughts, let's talk. I love you. I hope you choose your radiance today. You're hot. Bye. Thank you, seriously thank you so much for joining me on today's episode and on this podcast journey. And if you loved what we talked about today and you know another human who could definitely benefit from what was discussed, I would so appreciate if you would go ahead and share this podcast with them. Don't forget, hit subscribe or follow so you never ever miss an episode. And the great news is you can always follow me, my work, my blog, my podcast on my website at www.wethelight.org. And hey, remember, life is so much brighter when we shine. I'll see you next time.